In our 7th episode, Brandon and I explore the 4th of our 12 manager intelligence skills, inspiration. You will learn what this skill is, why the best managers have honed and developed it, and some practical tools you can utilize to develop this skill. Let's dive right in.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Leading Strong, the place to be to level up your leadership effectiveness on one of your most important roles, engaging your employees. Managers are responsible for at least 70% of their employees' engagement. The best managers, like you, lead strong by constantly honing and developing the skills needed to keep their teams engaged. Your hosts, Darren Veresamy and Brandon Miller, are the co-founders of 34 Strong, a company that creates great places to work. Their team has worked in Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and small businesses to lead strong. Now over to Darren.
Welcome to Season 1 of Leading Strong, where we will dive deep to grow your manager intelligence. I'm your host, Darren Veresamy, here to serve you in your continued discovery and growth to lead strong. This episode of Leading Strong is brought to you by 34 Strong, where organizations just like yours become great places to work. To find out more, check out 34strong.com. Today, we're going to explore the manager intelligence skill of inspiration. I'm one of your hosts, Darren Veresamy, and joining me as well is Brandon Miller, and we are the co-founders of 34 Strong, where we create great places to work. Brandon, welcome.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into inspiration. You know, a lot of times we go through these are the pieces of the puzzle that we look at and we think, is inspiration really a skill, or does somebody just have that? Do they just have that ability? And it's such an essential skill, actually, when we're looking at things through the lens of managing for keeping fuel in the tank for people, right? Keeping them motivated, keeping them going. It's not something that we can just do. Sometimes many organizations on the whole and managers will fall into the path of, we'll do a team building day and that'll inspire everybody. And we'll just do that once a year or once every 2 years and everything will be fine. This is actually something that needs to be replicated on a regular basis. And the best managers, folks, when we're going through these 12 skills, which we're unpacking in season 1 here, these are actually the habits of what the best bosses do. These become the skills that they've honed and developed and what they actually do as habits to create and sustain teams of highly engaged employees. Time and time again, in the good times and the bad times, when the seas are good, when the seas are very, very rough, certainty and uncertainty, these skills, when they're aligned, they really come together. So we're going to get into unpacking these here for inspiration. Brandon, anything to say to kick us off on inspiration with this particular skill?
Well, I have good news. You don't have to have the most outgoing, gregarious personality. You don't need to be a motivational speaker. You don't have to even be a great orator to be one who inspires others. We have the ability to uplift people by words we say or the mission we help them to feel or showing them where they've made a difference. There are very practical, tangible ways that we can grow in this skill. But what we will tell you is that motivated workers are significantly more productive than someone who is not. So we really love to talk about this skill to develop because we have met many managers, leaders, CEOs who say, yeah, I'm not that motivator person. I'm not the one that's going to get up in the front of the room and do the rah-rah. And we would go, well, neither are most people that person. Mm-hmm. With that said, you absolutely have it within you to uplift, to inspire, to give people direction and spark their emotion through very consistent and measured ways that will absolutely increase the skill and make you more effective in your management role.
Yeah, being an effective manager is not a box to check. It's not a box to check, as we've talked about many times before. A lot of times we've operated in the individual contributor role to become a manager and to become effective in that. However, we've got to hone and develop these skills in going for it. Inspiration for a team, it's kind of like bathing. I've said this analogy many times. It only works if you do it on regular intervals, right? It only works the same way. Inspiration's the same way because we've got to keep putting fuel in the tank. And there's going to be days, there's going to be events that take place in our work. There's going to be stuff that takes place in people's life where they're falling down a little. And they're going to count on somebody that's leading, somebody that's managing the team that's able to inspire them and keep fuel in the tank. If not, we put our teams in a position where they're running on fumes here. What can you say, Brandon, about inspiration and differences in people? Is it the same for everybody? Are they all inspired the same way? I mean, you mentioned the piece about, hey, we don't have to be motivational speakers, but for those receiving it on our teams as well, do they all need it the same way, or are there different ways to inspire people?
So influence has a goal to invoke a response. It has the differentiation of what we covered last week. It's trying to get a response to follow us. Inspiration is sparking emotion, right? It's uplifting, generating new ideas. It makes us feel that things are possible. And some people who work with us, they have that. They are self-contained, motivated machines, wired, fired, and inspired. One of my managers used to tell me, and they just have that energy, but others not as much. So therefore, the modality that we use, the terms, the way that we'll use different tactics, everything will root back to individualized, Darren. Every week, we're going to come back to, we need to know how to customize our approach. With that said, though, to be a leader growing in the skill of inspiration, I want to understand that I have to inspire a few, or I have to inspire many, or just one. And that's the key to developing this particular skill set, is being aware of that as you look at the high and low and where you have room to potentially grow.
And as we get into the highs and lows here in just a moment, this is an important piece to know. To inspire others, you're going to have to find out as well, what inspires you? What are the things that you're doing that create that little spark for you as well? Because you'll be able to give that back when you're showing up inspired as a manager. So it's important, as we're talking about this, to understand that this connects to ourself. A lot of being a best boss, the best manager, when we think of the best of managers, the leaders that we've had in our life, they share one common trait that we've said many times before. It's they're self-aware. They know who they are and who they aren't. But they invest in themselves as well, in that inspiration piece of what it takes to keep gas in their tank. Brandon, take us through, what are some of the highs? What are some of the lows for the inspiration skill?
So when managers really listen, so take the time to really understand who their people are, they're going to hear those buttons, those triggers that trip into the best possible outcome. So what we think about with a highly skilled person with inspiration, you're a coach. You are coaching your team. As much as you're leading, as much as you're managing, you have transitioned from, I'm not just their boss, I'm their coach. I need to be the one that gives the directives, that lays out the schedule, that gives the expectations and requirements. But at the same time, I'm there to motivate and to inspire, because when a person is inspired by their manager, they are significantly more likely to retain, so to stay in their job. They're significantly more likely to be more productive, accurate, and safe. So the high side, the 5 out of 5, is that you're pushing the right buttons and you're seeing your people respond with energy, they're uplifted, they're believing for better. And as a result, you're seeing better outcomes. Now on the low side, what's happening, and this is an attitude. So the low side of inspiration starts with a mindset that is very unhelpful. And it's this: I'm not responsible, Darren, for your motivation. That's on you. I gave you the job. I give you a paycheck. You show up, you do the job, and you and I won't have any problems. Said no one ever that motivated me.
Right. Exactly.
Right? That's like, oh, hey, thanks. Because that mentality does exist. We've heard it over and over. And it isn't that you need to dress up as a cheerleader and come into work and rah-rah and have some pom-poms. No. But you are there to root them on. You are there to inspire and uplift them so that they do have a spark from you. If you don't see that, then you're going to experience a decline. You're going to really impact last week's skill of influence, because this one's going to build on that and help move it forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those of you that don't know, Brandon and I are both parents. Brandon has 7 children. You have 4 grandchildren now. One was just recently born in the past couple of days, right? And
That's right.
Brandon, when they were little and when the grandbabies are growing up and they're starting to walk, you wouldn't go to them and as they're starting to walk, what happens is they're picking up and holding on to the table. What do? We smile, we cheer on the little ones, and then when we get a response, that's a human need that we have from childhood, right? We wouldn't look at them and say, well, hey, kid, you know what? I provided you a table. I provided you a floor. There's a roof over your head. Just deal with it. I don't care. Go learn to walk on your own. We help them. We guide them through those pieces. And those same elements that were alive when we were just learning to walk and all the steps that we go through, those are wired into us. And you have the power as a manager to tip that. One piece that I really wanted to capture that Brandon said so eloquently was the inspiration. When people are showing up inspired, what shifts? They believe that we can do this. It might seem insurmountable right now, but there's a belief that you believe in them. There's a belief that you believe in them. And sometimes that is the piece that tips them from being, I'm only 48% convinced that we can do this and 52% convinced that this is impossible, to tipping the scale to, you know what? Well, I believe it because my manager has given me that nugget. Now I'm at 51%. So let's do it. Let's give it a try and let's get rolling. Are there any key words that are associated with inspiration when we think about it from how it shows up and how people would describe it?
Yeah, it's a motivation, recognition, and I got to use coaching. I should add encouragement. These are key terms that are going to be associated with this, because if I'm aware of what you've done well and I want to reinforce that behavior, then I ought to be telling you about that as often as possible. Because I want you to know that the best qualities, the things I want to see, I'm going to keep reminding, because almost each week we've mentioned this. So managers will occupy in the mind and heart of their reports, either I'm an advocate, an adversary, or I'm ambivalent. And as you were talking about the image of the child walking, who while they're walking, as soon as they get to where they're going, the first thing they do is they're going to look up to try to find who's watching. And if the child does not see that they're getting attention, positive or negative. Obviously, when they've walked for the first time, they want positive. Affirm me. Tell me I'm doing well. But the little one that is looking around and someone is on their phone doing the scroll thing, right? And so now it's like, hey, I'm here. Well, as adults, we want to know that you see me. We want to know that you acknowledge me. We want to know that you care. And so this issue of inspiration really does hedge against that ambivalence. It's an area to be careful for, and you really can't make your own bed on this one, boss, because if you don't take time to reinforce what you want to see, you may not see it as much as you'd like to see it.
Yeah, and that is so true. And what does recognition do, right? All it does is closes the loop. We think that, oh, I set expectations. This is what I want. I told my team this is what I want. They need to do it. They just follow this list. I don't need to recognize them for it. Well, sometimes they're not willing to recognize them for when they do things right. But boy, will we pour on when they've made that one mistake on things. And we end up spending the majority of our time in the areas that they've made mistakes on, but never really actually showed them what success is like, or when they have been successful, don't recognize them for it. So it actually helps close the loop from have I met your expectations right back to that childhood moment of I've walked. Take a look. Was that good? Was that something good that I did? I've walked. Doing that is huge. And it shows that, and it builds those little nuggets over time, reinforces that overall. So do you have, go ahead.
Just one point on that, because we are even inspired by someone who corrects us, who challenges us. We actually can be quite motivated. And I'm going back to the child. I have watched toddler after toddler after toddler that I've raised and now with grandchildren try to stick their finger in light sockets. I mean, it's right at their level. It's a little space, and they just try to stick their finger right in this, right? And every parent who sees a child do this, we're, no, don't do it, right? And so the child is hearing an inspiring message of, no, not the right thing to do. That's dangerous. Don't do that. And that motivates, that causes a reaction because you care. You care. You're looking out for my safety. Even if I'm startled, even if I cry, because I've made my fair share of my children cry multiple times. The point is, I liken light sockets and running in the street, right? Those are not passive parenting moments. Those are stop right now, right? Like
do that now.
Yeah, those are instant moments, right? I was just writing this down as you were talking there, and I said, okay, recognition. When we're going to recognize, which is right in there with inspire, right in there where I'm recognizing something you do, equals reinforcement. You want to see it again and again. You recognize what you want reinforced, and it requires repetition. And if you want to see whatever the behavior is, whatever the outcome, the activity, whatever that is, If you will recognize it, it will provide reinforcement and it will require repetition. Why? Because human beings are bombarded with information all day long. And the messages that stand out are the ones we hear over and over again. And as we say again and again in our company, Darren, repetition equals?
Repetition will equal success, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And it equals in our minds, it's significant.
Mm-hmm.
It matters. It stands out.
Yeah, it's so huge. And, we have for 34 Strong, we have this, and we've seen many other companies that do this as well. We've got our core values in every single meeting that we have. We're repeating those. We're saying these things because it's just conditioning that wiring and those beliefs that not only do we believe in these things in ourselves, but collectively, these are things that we believe. So when we look at inspiration, right, how does it tie into an opportunity to make a difference? Any thoughts on that in making the difference and achieving success, and even how it could tie into somebody's career path? Do you have anything to say on any of those points?
Annual performance evaluations in some of your organizations are required, and in others you've adapted to different type of performance evaluation process or systems. Generally speaking, people want some kind of evaluation because usually there's some kind of merit involved and potential increase in pay or increase in opportunity. So there's a place and there's still a debate here. So when we think about career path, something that is quite inspiring for a person is when their boss is also part career coach, thinking about how I can advance your skills, I can make you more marketable, I can help you be more successful, i.e. make more money. I can help you do that because I am an advocate for you to succeed. So that career path where I'm helping to keep track of your individual accomplishment and your successes, and here's some areas where we need to grow. Now, this is important, Darren, because the book we're going to recommend today is titled It's the Manager. And in this book, it's a 52-chapter filled with case studies that the Gallup organization spent years accumulating. And so it's not really meant to be read page 1 through. It's something you pick out. But the overarching message is that people will always respond more favorably to positive reinforcement and building on their successes than they do, and they will, if you focus on their failures, weakness, inadequacies. In fact, they put a number to it. We're nearly 4 times more likely to show up engaged. Remember, that's good attitude, good work ethic, that's good team member, all these things that we want, good corporate citizen, volunteer for things. 4 times more likely to be engaged if my boss focuses more on my successes than on my failures.
Yeah, and it ties into what we know, right? That is a piece that you and I come back to often. Where our thoughts go, our energy flows. That's what it is. And you have to build these pockets, these anchors in our life. When we're climbing, if you're at Half Dome, you see somebody climbing a wall, right? What do they have? They have anchors that they put into that rock face that they're going through, and they're reaching for that, and they can climb. You are one of the people that's putting those anchors right in there. And inspiration is the way that you're able to do that, to create the way for your team to climb. And here's the thing. As Brandon said, sometimes when we have to go to the place of giving that feedback and saying, we were out of line here, or using the children analogy, let's not stick our finger in the socket, you're still inspiring them. And they'll take that message to heart a lot more because of the amount of energy that you've invested in really the good things about them in studying what's right. So are there any questions that potentially people can ask of themselves or even ask of their teams, Brandon, to help spark inspiration? Maybe this doesn't come as naturally. Again, people hear that word and they think, oh, geez, I got to be Anthony Robbins. I got to go up there and be a motivational speaker. That's not what we're talking about at all. Are there any key questions, 2 or 3 key questions that people can ask of themselves and of their teams?
So this is going to be on the rare air side, and it has to do with asking about people's past successes. What are some of your recent successes? What are you most proud of? What is it that when you complete this, you really feel good about yourself? Those are excellent questions, because when a person agrees that their manager is asking about their successes with some regularity, remember, we're talking about repetition equals significance, which is quite inspiring, people gain confidence. And the outcome of inspiration will always be confidence. And you're combating what we call imposter syndrome, people who are questioning their confidence, questioning their role, not sure of themselves. It's a fear of being found out that I'm inadequate. I don't have what it takes. So when I'm inspiring, I'm instilling confidence. And one of the ways that I reinforce confidence is I have to remind you when you've done it right, when you were successful. Now, only 19% of people, according to Gallup, will agree that their manager will even ask that question at all. So we're going to encourage you, be one of that top 20, because in that top 20, you will make a huge difference. And you will stand out in your role as a boss slash coach slash manager slash CEO slash VP, right? Pick your title. You're going to have a major impact. So ask about successes. I think that one right there and in that family, there's others, Darren, but I think that one really has some corresponding value and benefit right in this vein. And again, you don't have to have the high energy. You could be an introverted person who's more careful with your words and private with your life and still take the time to care and advocate for, Darren, when did you really feel like you hit it out of the park? When did you feel like you're at your best? Tell me about recent successes and share them and celebrate them.
Yeah. And remember, these questions can become a start. That's all we're advocating for here. These are directly out of our whole manager intelligence series with these particular skills that we're going through. These are little starts for you. And these are the habits that you can build by asking these questions on a regular basis. A lot of times unlocking that and creating engagement is nothing more than asking the question. You might not get the response right out of the gate, right, Brandon? You might be talking to that employee that is a little more private or they haven't thought of successes in a long time. Maybe you've got somebody that's come in that hasn't experienced it. So they haven't thought about what's right. What are the things I do right? Because they're caught up in that.
Yeah, most people are trained to focus on their weaknesses. Most people are trained to focus on failures.
Yeah.
You know, ask someone what they're great at. There's a long pause. Ask them what they suck at. And they're going to rattle off 10 things to you.
That's it.
Because that's wiring. This shift that if you pick up the book, It's the Manager, really talks about not just a strengths approach from, hey, go take this cool assessment, which they have that. It's great. But there's a lot of that out there. No, this is mindset. It's philosophy. It's, hey, I can have an impact. I can instill confidence in you. I can accentuate your creativity. I can have you feeling like you can keep growing if I inspire you by what you already do well and then allow you space to even maybe do more of that. Built. And maybe that's a question, right? Is where do you feel the strongest in your role? Where do you feel like your strengths really come to fruition, really come and have expression? And where do you think we could add that? Is there anything you've seen, any places you've noticed in the company and the organization where we might give you some room to do that? And I'll tell you, Darren, anytime we've heard back from managers who ask that question, oh my gosh, like just the amazing answers they get back. It's like, wow, I hadn't even thought of some of this great ideas. And when we get into innovation, oh boy, I love that topic. When we get down there, you just start hearing the brilliance that come from our people, because some of us say this, and I hope we believe it, our people are our greatest assets. Well, especially when you have them operating in their areas of genius, their brilliance that they bring to us.
And we got to keep mining and staying curious. These questions are geared towards doing that. We've got a quote to close with here, and it comes from Lee Iacocca, right? So it's management is nothing more than motivating other people. That's at the core of what we've talked about with inspiration today and some of the questions that we'll go through, and I'll repeat a couple of them for you to just leave this episode with today. Brandon, anything else to say about Lee's quote?
You know, this is a guy that was motivating auto workers. So these folks were coming in a lot of cases, they were doing jobs that some would call monotonous. I mean, there was expertise required. You needed to know what you were doing. And his approach was, if we keep our people motivated, we keep them proud of who they work for and why we do what we do and see their place in our mission and our overall success. You know, he was onto something. He had quite a storied career that you can look back on and say, yeah, you're probably right there. That really comes down to you need to motivate people. That's a big part of growing in the skill of inspiration.
On that note, yeah. It's the ability to connect to that bigger picture, that bigger impact that it was going towards. And I think that's such a great example of it. So we'll leave you as we're wrapping up today. I just want to take you back to just summarize just two of those questions that came out of our discussion. You can go and start asking these questions right now, immediately with your direct reports. These are even questions you can ask some of your managers and you're in the middle. And we know how difficult that is. We have worked so much with folks in that middle ground. We're managing our direct reports and we have to manage up. And some of these questions can be really beneficial to ask. So one of them, again, is what are your recent successes, or what would you qualify as a recent success tacking on that, what is something that you've been most proud of as a recent success? That could just be a conversation opener, and that could plant the seed in talking about that. And again, how are you using your strengths in your current role? That's another one that came out of some of the elements that Brandon dropped. Get started on just one of those. That's all we encourage you to do. Pick one, start the conversation. Because you know what? If you're doing that, you're building the habit to become a best boss of what it takes. And you're building your own manager IQ. That's what you're doing, and improving your manager intelligence. So on that note, Brandon, as always, thank you so much for your insights today and in sharing and discussing with us as we work to create more best managers all across the planet, because you're impacting so much of people's well-being in their life. So we want to empower you in going forward. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll catch you next week when we talk about the manager intelligence skill inclusive. Until next time, take care.
Take care.
If you want to continue your growth in Leading Strong by hanging out with others committed to Leading Strong, join one of our LinkedIn or Facebook groups by looking for the Leading Strong Show. The truth is, organizational results like productivity, profitability, and low employee turnover rise and fall based on employee engagement. The world is starving for strong leaders, as they not only impact an organization's performance, they create massive influence on an employee's overall health and well-being. If you want to learn more about becoming a great place to work, or 34 Strong's signature Leading Strong programs, simply go to 34strong.com, where you will also be able to access resources you can start using immediately and stay connected with us. I want to thank you for sharing this episode with everyone you know who will benefit. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting channels, and please leave us a review. A big shout out to Wendell Fishman for writing and arranging the tune Aunt Lion for Leading Strong. Remember, everyone deserves a great place to work, and any workplace can be great. You can create culture by intention and design, and change happens with every life you touch. I am Darren Verasamy, here to help you lead strong. Until next time, my friends, I'm out.